The King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. This is episode 597 of the Wrestling is Real podcast. Tonight's topic, but AEW's Exploding Barbed Wire Match, right? That is a comment that basically is coming out from all of the loyal WWE fans. Now, I know on the post show for AEW Revolution this past weekend, 5 minutes of the end of the pay-per-view, and your casual WWE fans could not help themselves but ingratiate and revel in mistakes. You know why? Because they see so many mistakes in the product that they support, in the product that they have been loyal to for decades, especially those that still, they can't help themselves. They got to go look back at the Attitude Era, got to look at the network and look at old Royal Rumbles and WrestleManias. They have to go ahead and like put clips on TikTok or YouTube and revel in the history. Now, of course, I could go ahead and try to sympathize or empathize with all of you that do feel that way. I can understand what you're trying to feel, how you're trying to feel about this, and that's understood. But it still comes down to the fact that the upset, the level of upset that comes, and I hate that some of my podcast brethren out here, you know, I don't want to. The problem is that, okay, AEW, I will admit, when AEW first came into the scene, you know, and I started hearing people say, oh, well, look how Cody and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega treat people. And, you know, there's a whole vitriol and anger about it. I'm like, that just got to me altogether. I'm like, you know, I know that everybody has like a history and everyone wants to go and have this. But again, it's the offense of someone being upset that somebody is competing with WWE. But then the biggest thing was, at the beginning was like, oh, these guys are Bush League. All these, look at all these indie-rific guys. Got it. Okay. And then, but this has been going on for, you know, again, the last 30 years. Well, not so much 30 years. It's really been Attitude Era time, like really Monday Night Wars. WCW was one of the groups that, again, that was like the attack, because that was somebody that was as big as WWE. ECW, nobody said anything really. Like, we all enjoyed it. Actually, I think ECW brought people together. Well, I know for me, I enjoyed ECW a lot. And the truth is, when I really think about it, I really enjoyed ECW the best during the Monday Night Wars. And I just did. The pay-per-views were great. And for me, of the big, bulky WCW Monday Night Wars, I mean, I enjoyed Nitro more over Raw, because I used to record Raw and then usually flip through matches, because just some of the matches for me, like especially with mid-carders, just didn't do it for me. Some people I actually like enjoyed, but again, I'm watching for promos, I'm watching for segments, I'm watching for backstage, things like that, and which everybody else always does. And even the pay-per-views, like some of those, we kind of like, you know, yeah, there's just stuff I'm waiting for, but there's always good stuff sprinkled around on those Attitude pay-per-views. And then when WCW went away, which is, by the way, we're almost 2 weeks away from the 20th anniversary of the ending of WCW, which we will tribute here on the Wrestling is Real podcast. The thing is that at that time, you know, I just couldn't watch what WWF was going to do, or WWE at that point was going to do with the WCW talent and the ECW talent, which is exactly what they did. And it took me until about 2004 to 2005 to get myself back into the mix. Because also the other thing was I had that black cable box where I could watch pay-per-views, and then that thing went away because, you know, analog became digital. The other problem too was that I had analog cable still, and then like Spike TV at the time, when Spike TV was on, WWE was on Spike TV, it was on channel 75. And on my cable box, this little, you know, old Scientific Atlanta cable box, some of you old schoolers know about this, you know, as you got up the channel dial, up to about channel 62, all the channels looked okay. But then after that, all the channels got looking worse. And so 75, that's pretty bad. And like there were some channels I would watch over there that was like great. 77 was VH1, I think, and then MTV was 78. And again, it was just tough to watch those channels because it just looked like ass. And that's because of the old, underground cable that we had to deal with. Now, it's still not perfect good cable at this point, but still, because it was on Spike TV, it did kind of like take me away. It wasn't until they went back to USA, because USA was channel 48, and then TNT was 49. So I used to go and flip channel up, channel down to watch Monday Night Wars, because I would flip the Raw, but I would still tape it on VCR. That's what I did. Either which way, enough about me and my history. What I'm saying is this. There's always, you understand, the reason I continue to criticize WWE since December 18th, 2012, 596 episodes ago. All this time, I've always criticized for the betterment, for the good of wrestling in general. And I said right now, again, you want to talk about complaining about Jeff Jarrett, talk about the wrestling boom when he was bringing up Global Force Wrestling? Well, we do have a wrestling boom right now. Okay? Again, I can't tell you how happy I am about all the wrestling we've had. Like, again, 2019 was fantastic. 2020, at least we had some wrestling. But again, 2019 was a hell of a year. The start of AEW, NWA, MLW coming back, right? Ring of Honor was on fire. Like, we just had some fun. 2020 was a little bit rough, but again, everybody's coming back. NWA's coming back with power. Ring of Honor's got their thing. They're kind of doing the pure, tournament kind of stuff, right? Pure rules. That's fine. What is it? 19th anniversary is coming up. Is it this weekend or is it next weekend? I forget. But I'm going to go look up and, I'll go ahead and see what the latest is on the anniversary show coming up for Ring of Honor and what they have all scheduled and lined up. So there's that. And then, again, AEW is just, they're giving some good stuff. But again, this company has made its way in a very short amount of time to become significant. Okay, we already have heard the story. One thing that everybody got upset about, if you're a WWE mark or if you're a loyal fan of the product, people took offense to the fact that NXT had to move from Wednesday to Tuesday, coming up April 13th. So we haven't talked much about that. But I know there's some people that underneath the headline, they're saying to themselves, that means AEW won. No. But AEW was able to survive. Like, there is a victory in the terms of survival. But it wasn't the AEW beat NXT. AEW wins in the fact they survived competition that was meant to, to cripple AEW's Dynamite ratings, which it did take some of that away. And I'm telling you, the benefit for both the NXT and AEW is going to be seen April 13th and 14th. We already know that's going to happen. It's just a fact of life, says LA Knight. That's what's going to happen. And then after that, we can see if AEW does make a move and they can reach 1 million viewers. Again, they're getting close. And I'm sure people were watching tonight after the pay-per-view, not just for Christian Cage, not just for what else was going to come up with the Inner Circle, because they were talking about the War Council and other things they had planned for the show. We also wanted to see what was going to happen. Oh, well, we know Darby Allin, Scorpio Sky. We had that match. A lot of newsworthy stuff on Dynamite tonight. And more importantly, there was a lot of time to address the last 5 minutes of but AEW's Exploding Barbed Wire Match. So my point is this. The casual WWE fans are going to continue to consume themselves with some hatred and some vitriol and some bitterness towards All Elite Wrestling. I mean, I thought it was still the point where AEW kind of was still trying to go ahead and go in its own lane. The fact that it went ahead and signed free agents like Big Show and Christian over, so former WWE talent has made their way over here. Sting got brought in, Shaq had an appearance, right? They're doing things where they're starting to build things up. You know, they're using older stars, they're using veterans, using celebrities, right? They're just doing what they need to do to try to go ahead and, you know, again, flip the needle. Get a little more acceleration into exposure for All Elite Wrestling and get their product better, because that's what they're supposed to do. And that's what they're trying to do. So again, to go ahead and be content at 800,000 viewers, they need to build more. Like the goal is 1 million viewers live every Wednesday night, and then go from there. And if they reach that mark and they can be consistent on that mark, again, WWE is going to have to realize, you know, they're not even caring about that, what they're doing on AEW. Again, the NXT project, the NXT scheduling was meant to go ahead and, you know, again, put some buffer up against AEW's momentum. And that's what they've been doing for the last year and a half. That's fine. But more than anything else, that was one thing that was being considered. Then it's the issues of the contracts and the signings that they had and the people that had let go and all this that also took into effect of what's happening now that AEW and other promotions have benefited from. It still comes down to the fact of this. AEW will make other mistakes. I'm sure that nobody's ever going to let go of but AEW's Exploding Barbed Wire Match. They're never going to let that go. In wrestling lore, that's going to be a match they're always going to shit on, but the truth is, we had a 20-minute match with Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley that was fantastic. Look, that was a really good match. Storytelling was really good. The psychology was good. The whole setup for what it was worth. And I thought tonight they actually did a pretty good job of trying to retcon the whole thing. It was a fuck up. I'm going to think it was. And what they try to do tonight with Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega all together, I thought it was really good. It was the best way to kind of circumvent out of a bad situation. Like, it was damage control, and it was the best kind of damage control you could do. I think it was. And I can appreciate what they tried to go through, and they did it a good way. You know, Eddie Kingston being the one to kind of talk about it, put himself out there. I thought the whole prison explanation was pretty cool. It was a nice way to do it. And it's not like they put it under the bus. Like, you know, again, Kenny and Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston, they all basically did a thing where they admitted, well, it didn't go as planned. They made that obvious. So they went to where they went with that, and they'll build something off of that coming up. And now we see Christian Cage and Kenny Omega now confronting each other, so that might be the next feud coming up. Okay. And then who knows what Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston, what they're going to do with them going forward. We'll find that out soon. With that said, we are now at a point where this is the biggest foul up that AEW has had. And, you know, again, they had a little production snafu tonight. And again, the criticism, the little nitpicking. I mean, hypersensitive people that are watching these shows on Twitter and commenting on Twitter and social media, and just honestly, they want to go after that. And you know why? It's because it's a full, flat denial of the failure of the Major League product, which is what I talk about all the time. How far do I have to go back? Let's go back to square one. WWE's been in continued decline for over a decade. They have lived, milked, and enriched themselves off of the Attitude Era. They have milked it for whatever it's worth. They have used their stars to part-timers to barely be able to do anything else. They've done it. And, you know, that's a company making the most of the resources in there and what they have. And their legacy. Knowing the brand that they have and knowing what they have, you know, at their disposal. And sparing no expense on trying to use their past to continue to build on what they can do going forward, to continue to build on what they've gotten, because what they've gotten is amazing. Again, the accomplishments that the company's made have been all business related. It has nothing to do with the product. Okay? To get the kind of broadcast deals, which AEW could not get. Okay, they're not getting the kind of level of money that WWE's gotten. The deal with Peacock for the WWE Network coming up in a month. The deals with NBC Universal on top for the NXT and Raw shows and SmackDown on Fox. Not to mention a bunch of other corporate deals they have. And, I mean, again, a social media machine that is huge with a major footprint and a global audience. I mean, there's no mistake why WWE is the main major leagues, and they're going to get WrestleMania back up. Like, again, we've been seeing some crowds at AEW shows, but again, when WrestleMania comes back, they're going to be the ones with the big crowds coming back. The crowds that are indicative of what WWE's been used to, which is their bread and butter, having the fans responding, reacting to something big going on. And for the fact that Vince McMahon wanted to change up the show and get it bigger. Hey, that's still something that's got to be commended and praised, because of the fact that Vince McMahon said, nope, this isn't good enough. And he's absolutely right. We're getting a very good pay-per-view if the card that they have right now that they're considering stays in place. If it's Edge and Roman Reigns, Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, and they put up some other matches, hey, fine. You know, he wants to do more. He's absolutely right, because that's the level that that's the expectations he has built upon himself. The problem is that, okay, we can get the expectations probably almost met by the time WrestleMania gets here, and then we'll get the show, and we will praise it. We'll probably say a lot of good things about it overall. We even said it for last year. Again, I'm sure people continue to talk about that bone. I mean, again, we saw the street fight on AEW this past week, and some people brought up the Boneyard match, but again, yeah, the Boneyard match was a better cinematic portrayed of all the matches we've seen. You know, get past Final Deletion, get past, you know, whatever the Hardys did. Something's got to be said about that Boneyard match. Again, that was just cinematic bliss. You can go watch that again and again. It's just a fantastically done match. Like, there's so much that was done right about that. And again, that's why they did cinematic matches going forward. Have they always hit? No. But again, that was trailblazing, which is not a thing that WWE does lately, but they had to figure out something to keep themselves in the forefront. And they should be able to, because they have the resources, the money, the wherewithal, and the talent to be able to do it. They have everything in their disposal to make great programming, to script and program great programming every show, every week, and every pay-per-view. There's no question of the capabilities. There's no question of the expectations that the fans have, because we have been spoiled. And even we have to realize, you know, from a business standpoint, you know, while WWE is doing such a great job building up all these deals and being one of the first ones to be ahead of the future of streaming as early as 2014, let me tell you something, okay? When Netflix was the only other people around and UFC started doing it, again, WWE Network, to be one of those first companies to do over the top with the other sports franchises, to do that premium over the top model and to do it so well. Because it was honestly, the network has been amazing. I don't think there's a whole lot of people that really complain about that platform. They might have a little bit here and there on certain live shows, but I'm telling you, that network has been fantastic. It's as good as Netflix. It's as functional and as reliable as Netflix. I kid you not. Like, I'm curious as to how Peacock's going to be able to handle the traffic they get once the network comes up, and, you know, how they're going to have to deal with live streaming. Because even Bleacher Report Live kind of struggles with the AEW pay-per-views like they did. So you got that going for you as well. And again, this is where they have to get the commendations, the praise. They have to be told, listen, they do a great job. But again, it is the talent It's no lack of talent, no lack of wherewithal, no lack of resources, no lack of bringing the best people in. Okay? They have amazing people in their corporate structure that are smart and they are savvy. Okay? They did bring somebody with creative that does have some real chops. Again, Nick Khan. This guy is amazing because talk about a guy, and which is why I've been saying Nick Khan's got to get more involved. If there's a way for him to get more involved day to day, not necessarily to be there at the Thunderdome and try to get Bruce Pritchard and Vince and all these other people in lockstep. No, but an overarching directive under Vince's, precedence and says, hey, this shit has to get fixed. Okay? We have these deals in place. I worked my ass off with all my connections from CAA to get this all working. And we are not going to fuck this up because Bruce Pritchard is trying to do stuff here, which is trying to appease Vince. And maybe there's some good ideas out of the creative team, but then this whole corporate structure, this whole idea of trying to create a writer's room that can really do some interesting storylines is not working. This system is broken on side of the Thunderdome. And for the fact that the creative team is constantly there in Tampa all the time. They're not even on the road now. They're not even doing house shows. They don't have to worry about that. Just the television. And the television is lacking. And you look at Monday Night Raw every Monday night, and the abomination that show's been in WrestleMania season. And before that, really, Raw has been bad. This Randy Orton stuff with him and Alexa Bliss and the black blood or whatever that stuff's coming out of his mouth and the alter ego of him and all of that is awful. Miz getting a rematch with Bobby Lashley, and how they put it together and having rematches of rematches of rematches of rehashing of rematches of rematches of rematches. And just, again, that's TGI Friday booking, which we're so tired of the same people we're working with each other. It's the same dancing partners every week and different variations. Okay, we'll do a singles of these tag teams, and then we'll do a single of these tag teams, and then we'll just have these two work with each other in another match or find another way to do something. It's horrible. It's practically unwatchable. But we still suffer through it because we are fans. There's nothing else for me to watch on Monday nights. And I'm not going to go and pull myself to go and watch, stream anything. I'm watching Raw. It's on my TV, 8 to 11. And I'm not watching news or politics or anything like that. I keep it on there. I don't even change the channel. I am a person that if the Nielsen people are counting my cable box, they're getting me as a viewer every damn Monday night, no matter how bad it gets. The only thing they might get is when I see a certain match that comes up, like if it's Dana Brooke and, Mandy Rose on my TV, I'm going to the bathroom because I need to go. Or, pick other matches. Like if it's Lucha House Party and Riddle, I can't get into this character, the goofy character as the U.S. champion. I can't get into it. It's not good. And that's just, it's a waste of talent. Again, we haven't seen Keith Lee in forever. I guess he's out of the WrestleMania picture altogether because I don't expect him to be around unless they're doing an honor to the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I don't know. But Keith Lee, Persona, don't know where he is. Andrade, we don't see him. Humberto Carrillo, we don't know where he is. It's done. And that's how they do things, right? The storylines are bad. There's good things that come out of SmackDown, which is probably the best of what they got. But again, that's not saying much. Basically Fox is getting the bare minimum of entertainment that they're paying for. That's how way I feel about it. SmackDown is delivering the bare minimum of what this company is capable of. But meanwhile, instead of blustering, huffing and hawing over all the mistakes this company does, which people will do as the show goes on, God forbid they get an opportunity to go and crap on somebody else. In WCW, they could crap on Nitro and Thunder at the time. when Impact was doing something, and you had, what was it, like 2010, 2011, 2012 to like 2015, people could crap on TNA and Impact all they wanted to, and they did a lot. Yeah, come on, let's pick the mistakes. Victory Road. Let's pick the I said it during the post show, the electric fence steel cage match, right? The electrocuting steel cage match. Orlando Jordan. We could pick things. We could just say that we're just dumpster fires on TNA. Absolutely, no doubt about it. But then AEW does something where, for the most part, they've been, they have not been, swarmed and, plagued with mistakes and horrible wrestling. Like, they do have some bad wrestling on that show. The women will have some kind of botchy matches, and some of the other matches might not be great, but for the most part, they got a hell of a tag team division. They got a lot of singles wrestlers, and for the most part, they put a pretty good foot out. And again, they get some time to go on dark, and they get to work. The promos are quite good across the board. So, I mean, the best you're going to get on Dynamite is pretty well done, and they got great storylines. They're very intricate. You get a finish on it, and I enjoy it. And I overlook most of the stuff that might be some, things that people will just go ahead and gloss over and just, look at this, look what they did here, Or people will just say, well, I just don't like it. I just, complaining. And then, of course, the people that might be AEW aficionados that are just like, they praise over and over the company, and like the company can't do any wrong, and trying to defend the Exploding Barbed Wire match. Well, again, I wouldn't do that either. Like, yeah, that's the first thing I did on the post show. I called it out. I was like, listen, I'm going to talk about this right now, and I'm going to talk about Christian Cage coming out. Everybody expects, again, you're expecting AEW to perform the level that WWE did in the Attitude Era. They can't do that. They're not capable of doing that. Like, honestly, I wouldn't even expect AEW to be able to perform at the highest level of when TNA was at its peak. That's where I feel about it. Again, I think AEW's been overachieving in a lot of different ways, because it's more than I expected and kind of better than what I thought. And again, it is like, it has a feel of Nitro, because I know who you have out there and how things are kind of built up. Like, it does have a feel of that. And obviously, Cody's in there with doing that, and probably has a lot of the ideas where like Dusty kind of like comes into that. And then all the old scores you got from Jake Roberts to Tully Blanchard. There's all that to go with as well. And Arnie Anderson, think about it. And now you got that new group with MJF, Sean Spears, and FTR. They kind of got like a four horseman kind of feel to it. I'm wondering what they're going to call themselves, but that's kind of the idea here. And Tully Blanchard's the manager. He's the new J.J. Dillon. Interesting. And the Inner Circle now, they don't have the Elite to work off of. So the Blood and Guts match they might have planned, this might be set up for this new faction that's being built up right now. I love it. I love that MJF's now brought into this new faction, and the whole setup of the Inner Circle getting screwed. I think that's a hell of a storyline. They gave us a really good payoff. I like it. Sting, Darby Allin, that was very well done. There's a lot I can really enjoy about what's going on here. But again, the WWE fans, when they get onto this, it's like, but, AEW's Exploding Barbed Wire match. But, and they're going to keep going after that, because the fans can't help themselves. This is a playground. It's like recess. You have the kids that like AEW, you have the kids that like WWE, and then you have the others that just like watch. Okay, it's just how it is. It's almost like I feel like those people that do like the card games, like you're playing up, Magic the Gathering, and it's like, what's the other game you can think of that like people will play? Yeah, I don't know. It's like Magic the Gathering is like the old school game that's been around for a long time, and that's like the WWE crowd. And then there's a group that play another game, and they're like kind of shit on, and then they're just kind of like talking shit back at each other, and it's like, oh, look what you did, but, and then like that's what happens. So people continue to go on that route because they can't help themselves. That's just how they have to feel about everything. When somebody feels upset and angry and bitter, and they don't like that somebody can go in and criticize their own product, even though they criticize it themselves. God forbid somebody that might support a different brand all of a sudden kind of criticize WWE, and that those people are just going to get chastised. I mean, God forbid I try to say anything on wrestling Twitter. I don't. Like, I might talk to a couple people, but man, there are just some people that if I say something, man, they just get angry. Or they just kind of snap back. They can't help themselves. It's as if you don't follow the WWE line, then you can't play ball. Like, that's what it is. You know, it's like they take their ball and go home. Very sensitive. So, I mean, I just do better doing this podcast myself. And some of you out there will listen in. And, you know, again, you listen in, you hear my perspective, and that's great. Still comes down to the fact that fans are still, wrestling fans like us, and I'm myself in the same vein, I will say it, we're mature about this. This is our inner kid talking, okay? We all have this guilty pleasure as older fans watching this product because it's still supposed to be something for kids. And then, you know, like younger teens. But there's so many adults watching this right now, and our inner child starts coming up. We have to start acting like, oh, look, ooh, but AEW's Exploding Barbed Wire Match. And that's what happens on a regular basis. It's not helpful, but again, AEW never had to get to this point. Again, AEW was a concept created because of the mistakes of WWE. Never forget that. This never had to happen. Cody never had to go and let go from WWE, but they did. Again, you know, they let him be Stardust with Gold Dust, and they were doing that. And after that, it's like, okay. And then Cody just left. It was like, okay, look, I'm just not getting used. Young Bucks were already working around the world. Hey, why don't you work in WWE? Why don't you work in WWE, right? That's the other thing. The whole talk about, like, you have to work in WWE to go and be like somebody. That whole conversation all the time. Oh, Ethan Page, if he went to WWE, if Eli Drake went to WWE, if this person went to WWE, right? It's always been that. Where has that gotten you right now? Oh, hey, what if Keith Lee went to WWE? He'll be great. No. Oh, Riddle. Oh, Riddle will be great over there. No. Oh, Ricochet. Come on, Ricochet. Lucha Underground. You know, come on, Prince Puma. No. I mean, really, I want to hear somebody that keeps talking about, oh, this would be great if this person came to WWE, right? Because they keep saying it because they keep hoping that the next person, no matter how talented they are, they're going to be the one that overcomes. Karrion Kross, he's going to be the savior. He'll turn this around. I'm still waiting for it, but I mean, I know he's been injured. I know he's got to now deal with Finn Balor, so they're now pushing him to the main event. Great. Fantastic. Okay, but then after that, and I think here's the best part, because now in a few weeks, NXT moves over to Tuesday nights, and now we get to focus on all this. That'll be fantastic, right? That I'm looking forward to, because then I'll get to watch NXT much more vividly because I'll just be able to enjoy it, and hopefully Impact Wrestling will move themselves to Thursday night, and then all is good in the world. And I'll have wrestling for every night to watch to my heart's content. Because in MLW, I usually don't get to watch the Wednesday night show. I'll usually watch it on Saturday nights. And that's what I normally do. So it's good. It'll work all for me like that. Great stuff. That works for me. But again, for the other fans out there, just, you know, let's just keep feeding more people. This person deserves to be in WWE, right? This person should be in here because they're going to turn things around. Here's the next Rock. Here's the next Stone Cold. No, there's not going to be another Rock. Not going to be another Stone Cold. Not even going to be another Edge. Okay? We're not getting that. For whatever reason, you know, the days that get talked about on all these shows, you know, regaling about the years of old, you know, hearing Stone Cold talking about old stories, or hearing, you know, Bischoff, or hearing, you know, JR, or all these other people, and the way things were. And Bruce Pritchard talking about, you know, the way things were. The way things were and going to be the way things are now. The Attitude Era came at a time before the company was public and wasn't so corporate as it is now. But the corporatization of World Wrestling Entertainment is what brought this where we are now. But again, you know, this company gets run like it does get run like a hedge fund, honestly, because the assets that the company has I mean, it really does get run like that because the company, man, the assets, the legacy, the people they have in charge right now, they know, or honestly, it's they just know how to get themselves over here to just, it's amazing how much they're able to go and monetize everything. Here's the thing. I talk about radio on my Broadcasters podcast, and I talk about how iHeartRadio, which is the biggest radio company in America, okay, they run like 850 radio stations around the country. They're owned by a private equity firm, managed by a private equity firm by the name of Thomas H. Lee Partners. Long story short, iHeartRadio has a legacy because they have their app, they have advertising, they have all these different resources, and all this talent that work under these stations, and all the people that are hosting podcasts and all this stuff. And they have all these different things they can do to get crowds around the country, to go like live concerts, all of this. But the private equity firms, when a company's underperforming, when the company can't make a whole lot of traction to what they're doing based on their programming. The programming is not monetizing, like their actual content. Same thing happens here. And then basically, the people that work for these companies, they're vultures, just like either selling off certain things or just utilizing certain things to go ahead and be able to just sell off of it and monetize it. So WWE does get run like a private equity. And these vultures will just say, oh, we'll just pick off and just use anything we can of value in this company and monetize the hell out of it. And that's what WWE does best. Because WWE could not be able to go ahead and sell this company themselves and talk about, oh, well, who's your star? Well, Roman Reigns, Sasha Banks. Okay, that's good. I guarantee you, Nick Khan, when he talked to Fox, he talked to NBC Universal, and he talked about the WWE Network, he's not talking about the current product. I guarantee you that. What they're talking about? They're talking about, this is the company that brought you Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Batista, John Cena, big movie star talent. This is the kind of level of talent that we have. Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Roddy Piper, all these people from your past. That's what they're talking about. Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, Saturday Night's Main Event, WrestleMania. Like, they're just talking it up about the history, the legacy of the brand that is WWE. And what else can they also boast? Global audience, billions of social media users, or impressions and footprints and all this stuff. This amazing catalog of content that they have. The deals they made with the right people to go and put their content up over the top. The global audience they have created, which just continues to go ahead and just go crazy each and every time. Being able to go and do deals in Saudi Arabia. Go ahead, being able to go in like every continent in the world and just promote. Like they just, again, the company's a monster. But if you need to go and sell this company to any major corporation, especially these big media corporations like Fox, Disney, aka Fox, and NBC Universal, okay, you couldn't do it off this programming of Raw and SmackDown Live. They wouldn't even be going. They wouldn't be able to get a tenth of 1% of what they're getting right now if they did not boast their history. All right, and that's indicative of what this company's going through right now, and the mistakes that are being had. And because of the mistakes, they're not hurting at all in the money area, okay? Where they're hurting, okay, the only effect that their ignorance and their stubbornness to revive and revitalize and make some major changes to the direction of creative and the way they position their stars, because of the constant mistakes they've made since the corporatization of this company. They have allowed competitors to come right in with fresh new ideas, and obviously, even in some cases, using some of the same ideas that WWE used to do back in the day, which is where some companies have done. All right, WCW, that company was built directly because Eric Bischoff said, okay, I'm going to take these stars from the 80s, use them for the 90s because they're still usable. And and again, the mistakes of the company because not being able to pay, they had their issues with their own money troubles in the mid-90s. We all remember that. And then Eric Bischoff had Ted Turner's checkbook, and he went ahead and started signing up all this talent to get him on board. He's trying his best. And WCW gave it a great run. Right? We can always talk about 83 weeks. WCW can always claim that. They always had that. But again, even they, in the corporate sense, they made the mistakes that WWE is making right now. Except WCW, they were part of AOL, Time Warner, and a company that could just take them out. Like, the WWE still controls its destiny. They have not been bought by anyone. They still could. Down the line, NBC Universal could very well say, hey, we'll just buy this off of Vince McMahon. Like, the thing is, they're not going to go the route of WCW, but they're making the same mistakes as WCW. Because basically, Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon, to an extent, they are basically doing what WCW did in the 90s. And they're not doing what their own company did in the late 90s. And early 2000s, to expect. They're not doing it. Why they decided to go this route? Well, I don't know. But again, they feel like they need to go and live in their history. And they need to go and live off the past of who they have still. Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, Randy Orton. The way Raw is run right now, they're just living off of the history. And Edge, they have to live off of that. And what else can they do? And then they have guys that have been around as long as those other stars, except they were in other promotions with Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, right? And to another extent, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, we can just go along. That's where they are. And, some of those ideas, it's nothing new, nothing extra special. Like, I will still say that the Carmella, gimmick I've enjoyed. Apollo Crews, I don't know what they're doing. Again, they're making him this, he's like this African general all of a sudden. He's like a diamond holder, something like that. I don't know why they decided to go and change the accent. It's like the reverse Kofi Kingston on Apollo Crews. I don't know why that's happening or what. But they're doing that. And then with that, WCW came and went. Then it took a while for TNA to try to make an attempt. Because Dixie Carter had some bucks. And, the Carters wanted to try to take the company to the next level. At least Dixie wanted to. Hulk Hogan got in their ear. And then, let's make a run. Hey, let's get the gang back together. They tried it again. It failed. As soon as Hulk Hogan stopped getting paid, I was like, oh, okay. And things started just fading down, and Impact Wrestling almost went away. I think it almost got destroyed because of the same stupidity of WCW in the 90s, of the same stupidity that's being done now by WWE right now in the 2010s, between the 2020s. Same thing. And as a result, TNA could not, rebuild a better mousetrap. Nobody's doing that. But meanwhile, AEW is coming here. They're definitely different. They're definitely trying to go ahead and live off of the independent. They're really trying to go ahead and make a big stage out of a number of stars, just trying to put them together. And then really trying to go ahead and legitimize some of the indie-rific stars they've had that have been around for a long time and really just establish them. Like Kenny Omega about in Japan for all this time, legitimization. Young Bucks, legitimization. Like even when they were in TNA, Ring of Honor, it didn't mean anything. It's like, well, this is the company that's going to legitimize this talent. Darby Allin, legitimize. MJF, legitimize. Lance Archer, legitimize. Brian Cage, legitimize. And doing some of the things that worked in the past that a Dusty Rhodes booking would have done, or others, taking some of this younger talent, not putting them out there to go ahead and suffer, but giving them mouthpieces of promo cutters that were fantastic back in the day. Jake Roberts, Tully Blanchard, Vicky Guerrero to an extent, Arn Anderson, right? You got a lot of great talent that's out there. And then, of course, then the announce team. You got, Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross. Shit. And then you're bringing in some stars that are former WWE talent. Have they really gone anywhere and did anything? No, not really. Cardona came out for like a little short spell, but then he went over to Impact. Miro, hasn't really gone anywhere yet. But again, they're not making a big deal out of him yet. He's not getting pushed to some main event. Nothing like that. Jake Hager, he's just been an inner circle, but really hasn't been much of a use. He's just been in the picture. We'll now see Big Show. We now see Christian Cage. But they're not taking over the shows. Okay, the people that have, of the one major WWE star that came over, Jon Moxley. And Jon Moxley, as far as I'm concerned, has played a different character altogether. And he's basically playing the indie version of himself in a much bigger scale. And dare I say, the Jon Moxley we see right now, way better than Dean Ambrose. I enjoy it a lot more. The Dean Ambrose that was in SCW was more or less some of the Jon Moxley. Now, we got this. And it's great. That's awesome. Kenny Omega, he's a star now, man. As far as I'm concerned. MGF, becoming a big star. Huge. And are some things still not kind of getting there yet? Like, even though no matter how much they try, Orange Cassidy, things like that. Again, Scorpio Sky now getting the heel turn. They're splitting him off basically of SCU. And now Scorpio Sky becomes the guy that, like, okay, let's see what happens with him now that he kind of screwed things out of the TNT title. And like he lost the match. And then he's like, all right, no more. I'm done with being a face. Screw it. And here we go. And then they move along with storylines, man. Listen, I got to give credit. They do not stay stale. They will continue to move storylines forward. Okay, pay-per-view's done. Feud's done. Let's go to something next. They're starting feuds already. Christian Cage, Kenny Omega, looking at each other. Cody and Pentagon Jr., Penta El Cero Miedo, fantastic. I want to see what Cody does with Penta. That's wonderful. Great promo by Pentagon Jr., the kind of stuff he did at Lucha Underground without the subtitles, by the way. I love that Penta and Phoenix are split up right now. I love that too. That's actually great. Eddie Kingston legitimized. Like, this is what they're doing. There's a lot of great things to like about AEW. But that's what they are. Like, I'm not overwhelmed. They're not beating WWE right now. They're not supposed to. And why people think need to be feeling like, oh, they need to go and get this all taken care of. They need to go ahead and, like, that people feel like, oh, that AEW is going to, like, become like a competitor right away. No, they never were going to be. They're still trying to build. They're building pretty fast, though. Like, I must admit, to get to about 1 million viewers or getting close to it as much as they can is commendable. Like, I appreciate that. But they still have a lot to go. And that company's going to have to take some time to build up. And that's okay. I can appreciate all that. So with that said, we need to go and wait and see what happens. Now, I was mistaken. It wasn't Ring of Honor's 19th anniversary that's coming up yet. It's actually Back for the Attack NWA, March 21st. Venue to be determined, and then Fastlane on the 21st. So Fastlane's coming up right away. Let's go and go through what's happening for that pay-per-view coming up. Oh, so far we already have set women's tag team titles on the line. Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair versus Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. It's a rematch. And then Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan for the Universal title. So far we have that set up. And then NWA Back for the Attack. As far as I know, I don't think they'll have any matches set. Nope, nothing's been announced as of yet. We do know that Nick Aldis will be defending the NWA World Heavyweight Championship at that show. And I guess Serena Deeb Pryor will be defending the NWA Women's title, but we don't know what their matches are going to be yet. We do not know. And then coming up, Ring of Honor's 19th anniversary. That's March the 26th. No plan as to where the venue is going to be, nothing like that. So far, 2 matches announced. Roosh will defend the Ring of Honor World Championship versus Jay Lethal. And Jay Briscoe will take on EC3. Those are 2 good matches. That's a good way to come back on the pay-per-view. I like that. Looking forward to that. And I think I'll go and catch that coming up. Because they always do it on Fridays. And it'll be at 10 o'clock, by the way. That's another thing, too. Interesting. And there will be a 2-night event leading up to WrestleMania. And that will be NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver. April 9th and April 10th. And they will go over 2 nights. No matches as announced as of yet. When we learn more, we're going to talk about it. But there you go. We got that coming up. That's good. So like I said, a lot of things happen on AEW Dynamite tonight. Scorpio Sky turns heel. Moxley and Kings are mostly going to be tag teaming right now going forward. Matt Hardy Brand hires the Butcher, Blade, and the Bunny. So again, there's the whole split of Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston has turned face. Scorpio Sky has turned heel. And it's pretty obvious. We see the turns here. MGF swerving the Inner Circle. Hell of a job creating the new faction. Love it. I'm wondering what they're going to be called and what's going to be coming up with that. NXT. Kyle O'Reilly returned. He cost Adam Cole the NXT Championship. And Karrion Kross confronted Finn Balor. So we got all that going on. So again, Undisputed Era will have their matches. They're going to have the split up of that. So you got those guys working with each other, against each other as opposed to with each other, which is a good thing to have happen. So again, good. All that happening right there, that's good. A lot to talk about good about wrestling. But again, people want to go back and start hampering over AEW's Exploding Barbed Wire Match. All got to be upset about that. Can't let that go. And the fans will never let that go. Sure, we can go ahead and complain about it. We can go ahead and crap all over it. Yeah, no problem. I understand. But it doesn't take away the fact that, this could have been avoided. We all know that. But really, when you think about it, it's got to be a point now where the company just needs to start coming to grips and saying, okay, Vince McMahon's got to realize that WrestleMania with it coming up right now and talking about the fact that he wants to go and change things up and say to himself, man, show's got to be bigger. Well, this is going to be an ongoing problem. He has to have a year-round fix so that WrestleMania never has to have this problem again. This is where Vince McMahon needs to have his mind at. There has to be a full-fledged plan to right the ship so that when he leaves and he can let this baby off on its own, whether it's Trips or Stephanie or the McMahon family, taking over, Shane kind of being a part of this in some kind of committee, that the McMahon family in some way, Vince will go and step down and let this continue to go on, or he'll just stay around until he passes away. There's got to be some kind of a plan in place. And the plan's got to be, damn it, WrestleMania, I needed to be better. I need to be at a certain level. And I can't keep coming up with the same kind of tricks to make WrestleMania good. Just like I can't keep coming up with the same bullshit excuses as to why the ratings don't keep coming up. He's got to stop being able to go and make excuses for that. Somebody's got to call him out on it. And then this company has to realize WrestleMania is our bread and butter. Every year, we got to make it good. We have to work on trying to make WrestleMania good every year. That means we have to continue to keep making the shows good, leading up to it, year round. So without that house show money, without all the other things, obviously, remember, they're not even spending that much. All this has to get fixed. It has to be changed. I don't know what they're going to do. So that's where we're at. It's their fault. And let's see what happens. I hope they figure things out. But it's their fault. And the WWE fans, I mean, they really don't want to think that way. They don't want to think it like that. They don't want to go ahead and consider it. But it is their fault. They let AEW happen. They let TNA happen. They let WCW happen. That's what it comes down to. And again, as long as WWE keeps making mistakes, again, it only benefits these other promotions. And for me, I don't want it to be only WWE domination. Because we had that for a couple of years in the early 2000s. And it sucked. That's why I'm glad we have so much wrestling we have right now. So for my benefit as a wrestling fan, I like we have other promotions out there. And all these stars have a chance to go somewhere to go and hone their craft. And some of these stars that might have been let go by WWE because of a pandemic or something else, we're going to find them somewhere else. I don't care if they're going to be like better somewhere else. I just like the fact I'm going to see like some stars that I really enjoyed on WWE programming. I'm going to get to see them on AEW, or I'll get to see them in MLW or NWA or Ring of Honor. Like, I love all that. That's great. That's just the way it is. So anyway, I'll leave it there. And also, by the way, I saw Hammerstone lost the National Openweight Champion to Mil Muertes, and now Santa Renta holds that up, and I'm waiting to see what Aztec Underground is going to be all about. MLW is very good. I have enjoyed the Filthy Island stuff. That's pretty good stuff. Enjoyed all that. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. We will go ahead and follow up on this. And again, thank you for listening in. Thanks for finding the show. I'm not going to say subscribe because people think that's a pay. I just read a new research study that says that if you say subscribe to your podcast, 47%, according to an Edison research study, says that subscribe sounds like somebody has to pay for a subscription because we think of magazines like that. So find the show, follow the podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the major places, Amazon Music, and do all that. And thanks for listening in to another Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast. You can find all previous episodes at wrestlingisreal.com or subscribe to the show on all major podcast outlets, including Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at King of Podcasts, and search King of Podcasts on YouTube, or type youtube.com/JBRASCO951. This has been a presentation of the King of Podcasts Radio Network.